Welcome to Dr. Schmidt's Alien Universe. I wanted to mention I live up in the high desert of Southern California, and they have a lot of facilities up here, but they're all like Lockheed Martin has a facility outside of Helendale, and they have Edwards Air Force Base up and closer to Palmdale. They have all kinds of facilities up there too. So there's a lot of things that are going on up here. There's two incidents: the 1996 Hesperia Victorville Black Triangle incident. It was over the 15 freeway at Bear Valley, which separates Hesperia from Victorville. Victorville's on the north, Hesperia's on the south. And this incident was witnessed by me because I was out shopping after work. At that time, I was a full-time hospital pharmacist at Victor Valley Community Hospital for 3.5 years. I actually left there. I eventually went back to school to earn other credentials, and then I went back to work. So basically, 96 was that major incident with the before the Phoenix Lights, which was in 1997. So actually, so what happened is I thought they're making a movie, an extraterrestrial movie, and I just didn't hear about it, so I wasn't really worried about it. I said, I'll just read about it in the newspaper the next day. Well, what happened is the newspapers were directed by CIA and NSA government implants to suppress any story that's related to UFOs or aliens. So nothing was printed in the newspaper. But what happened is the newspaper did print a story about the 70 people that showed up soon after the incident, either the next day or 2 days after. There were 70 people that showed up at the Pyramid Bookstore, which was on Bear Valley in a strip mall across from Desert Valley Hospital. And I actually bought some of my books there. They had a lady that had eventually that bookstore was closed up. But during that time, they did have an article in the newspaper about the meeting of all the people that saw this large black triangle. So I wasn't the only one. They had 70 people there. There are people on the freeway going north and south on the 15 freeway, which passes through here. They saw it too, and some of them showed up, and some of the locals showed up. I didn't even show up because I didn't even know about that meeting at the Pyramid Bookstore, but that was the Paranormal Bookstore, and they sell books on UFOs. And so that was one incident. And there was another incident in 2009. In 2009, in South Barstow, which is the Barstow Heights area, a UFO crashed close to the 15 freeway, but it was off in the desert. And so people were out at 4 or 5 in the morning. This is in 2009. And what happened is they have recovery teams, the secret government, which I sometimes call the black government people. They go out and they cover things up, the cover-up guys, you can call them. They came out and they put 6 SUVs around the crashed flying saucer. Now, whether it was experimental human technology or whether it was alien technology, I don't know. But what they did is they put the UFOs around they put the SUVs, which were like, GMC Yukon trucks or whatever, around the object, and they had headlights flat pointed outwards. So the people that were out early in the morning to check for newspapers or whatever, they were going to go investigate, but they couldn't because the government had everything cordoned off, like they always do, like the police yellow tape. They had everything secured, and then they had a military flatbed that came out, and they had a crane, and they picked up this flying saucer. This is in South Barstow, and this is in 2009. So what they did is they picked it up and they put a tarp over the top of it, and they hauled it away, and they didn't answer any questions. People wanted to ask them questions. Well, what did you pick up? Was that a flying saucer? Was that extraterrestrial? They just cover it up. They pick up whatever it was, and they take it to a secure military base, and they don't say anything. And the newspaper doesn't publish anything. But there was a sheriff's deputy that I haven't talked to him, but I recorded the information down in my notes about a certain sheriff's deputy that said, "Oh yeah, this definitely happened. There's something strange that they picked up. The military government people, the cover-up guys, came in and they got it and they hauled it away, and maybe they took it to Area 51 or whatever." But to see, the cover-up program is all over the world. It's not just out here. It's everywhere. They've had all kinds of crashed crafts all over the place. Back in Max, Nebraska, in like 1884, a long time ago, they had a crashed alien ship, and they would refer it to, they didn't call them aliens back then or grays or anything. They said little men from outer space. They picked up little men and they all died, and maybe they buried them, or maybe they carried the craft over to some secret military place. But these events have been happening for years all over the world, but most of these incidents are secret. Nobody knows anything about it. So anyway, all this all this has been hidden. Hang on, I have to drink some water here. So the information has been hidden from the general public. It's for their own psychological protection, because this information may challenge their religious belief systems. Now, some of the people that experience these contacts with extraterrestrials, some of the people don't handle it very well. That's one of the reasons it's secret. Jacques Vallée, which is one of the main researchers, he did a paper on this, and it basically says in some cases, some people will go into a state of shock because the information is so upsetting that they will actually go into a state of psychological shock. And that's one of the reasons they keep it secret, because they don't know how everybody's going to handle this if they find out the aliens are real. But if you look at the astronomical argument, most of the stars around our sun are older than our sun. That means if there are groups out there that started, let's say, millions of years ago before us, that means they had more time to develop themselves into a super advanced technological race. And some of these races that are out there may have had their own alien contact from aliens that came to visit them, and maybe they picked up some of these advanced technologies from other groups. So in the Fermi paradox, they state that, well, if aliens are real, we should have known about it by now. Yes, but we do know about it by now. I know about it by now. Yes, they're real, but they keep it covered up because they're worried about national security. They're worried about religious challenges, and about mainstream scientific challenges. Because our universities do not teach all the physics, especially when it comes to alien physics. They don't teach this material. You won't hear this from almost anybody, even our best ufologists like Stephen Greer, who did a lot of work, who's done a tremendous amount of work in this field for years. He did the Disclosure Project. He was consulting the President of the United States and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He consulted a lot of major people, the CIA director. Even though he did all this work, and he's a much more accomplished ufologist than I am as far as what his presentations, his books, his his, all he has a contact, CE5 contact protocols. He's done a lot of work, but he doesn't have all the information either. He doesn't know that that a certain percentage of the aliens are not friendly. Most of them are friendly. This is important. Most of the alien groups, there may have been 160 groups of aliens that have been here. Now, not all of them live here, but a lot of them do live here, because what happens is many of these alien groups have developed colonies on the Earth, and they don't build on the surface. They build their shelters underneath the surface of the ground. So they may be underneath the ground, maybe several miles underneath the ground. And that's where they get the maximum protection, because certain alien groups may be hostile to each other. So they hide their buildings underground, and they do this on other planets. They do the same thing. They put their shelters underneath the surface of the ground. They may be underneath the bottom of the oceans. And you say, well, how could they do that? Well, they're more advanced than we are. So yes, they can do things that we think are totally impossible. They can build these underground shelters. And the Germans have learned how to do the underground shelters themselves a long time ago, because what they did is they built underground shelters. They made a deal with the aliens that didn't really want them there. They said, in Antarctica, they said, okay, we'll let you put up small colonies down here in Antarctica. So both the Germans and the Russians may have underground shelters in Antarctica, but nobody is allowed to go to the interior except the Germans and the Russians that have made deals with these extraterrestrials a long time ago. And if you go back and Antarctica is one place, and then they bought, the Germans bought ranches in Argentina, and they have underground bases in Argentina where they have these anti-gravity flying saucers that are hidden underground. And apparently up in the North Pole, either in some remote islands in Greenland, they have underground facilities up there too. So there's a lot of unknown things that are happening. There could be the hollow earth theory, where the extraterrestrials are hiding in the hollow earth. There's a theory. It hasn't been proven. Maybe Elon Musk or somebody like that can go out and prove. But the Dalai Lama said this: the hollow earth, the Dalai Lama from Tibet, won the Nobel Prize in a peace prize. I don't know what year it was. But he said the hollow earth is absolutely real. And the theory is, as many of these extraterrestrial groups have colonies in the center of the earth, but it's very well hidden. And so most of the Americans, or most of the cultures around the world, will deny it. But if you ask the Dalai Lama, who won the Nobel Peace Prize, I don't remember what year, but he said, oh, the hollow earth is absolutely real. And so they're saying that, yes, that the hollow earth opens up from both the North Pole and the South Pole, and it lets in ocean water and atmosphere, and parts of it on the inside may have a small sun. It's a nuclear fusion reaction like our sun, but it's on a much smaller scale, obviously, because it only has to give light and heat for a smaller area compared to our sun, which is giving light and heat for the whole solar system. This is inside. So there's a theory that the Earth may be partially hollow. It's not totally hollow. The Earth has an 8,000 mile diameter, and there's a theory that there's 1,800 miles of on one side and 1,800 miles on the other side, and in the middle there's 4,500 miles of open caverns, and a lot of the aliens are down there. And not only aliens, they have maybe dinosaurs that are still living that are down in the center of the earth. So that kind of reminds you of that movie, The Journey to the Center of the Earth, where they had all kinds of... So now that's a theory. Now, in order to prove it, you'd have to get somebody like Elon Musk to get a large group of scientists to go down there and say, is the hollow earth theory real or not? The Dalai Lama said it's absolutely real. So he's probably been down there himself, but they don't want to upset the general population. So a lot of times they might deny it, or a lot of people will try to deny it. But there's things that we don't know. We don't know. We don't know. Okay, now as far as the hostile aliens, are there hostile aliens? Yes, but they're only a small percentage. The hostile aliens make up 5 or 10 or 15% of all of them. So I'll give you 2 examples of hostile aliens. In the Vietnam War, there were patrol boats, and what they did is when they saw UFOs, the American military had patrol boats with 15 caliber machine guns. They would shoot at these ships, and they called them enemy helicopters. But they didn't have helicopters. They were UFOs driven by aliens, and there are certain alien groups that were resentful of the American military because of the atomic bombs dropped in Japan in 1945 or whatever. So there's a certain fraction of the alien groups that don't like the Americans or the Australians either, because they're allies and they were involved in the attack on Japan. And certain groups are not friendly. So what happened is they shot the 15 caliber machine guns at the ship, and the aliens are so advanced they took the machine gun bullets and they reversed it and shot it back at the patrol boat and sunk the American patrol boat. That was during the Vietnam War. So that was the 1960s or whatever. And then during the Korean conflict, it was the same thing. They had American military servicemen that were shooting at these extraterrestrial ships, and then the cover name is enemy helicopters, but they're not helicopters, they're UFOs. But like I said, there's certain groups that don't like the Americans because of the nuclear war attack using nuclear weapons, which they don't like. So what they did is in Korea, they shined the UFOs, extraterrestrials shined powerful laser lights on the American military because they were trying to shoot at them with their guns. And so they shot laser beams, powerful laser beams, during the Korean War again, and all the Americans got sick, and some of them died. They started to throw up because so the story is a small percentage of the alien groups are hostile to humans, but most of them are not. I met several groups myself, and all of them were friendly. I met in 1994, I met a powerful spirit being. And this, I didn't go anywhere. I was in my bedroom, and I lived in to save money, I lived in a trailer park, a one-bedroom trailer, for many years to save money so I could buy a home, which I eventually bought up here in the high desert. But I lived in a trailer park to save money, and I had a spirit being that came in, and it was a shapeshifter. It was called the Jinn. I was talking about them on the website, UFOs and Aliens Among Us, as the chief ufologist. This is in the early days. This is in the 1990s. And so in 94, this being came to me. It appeared as a human in front of me, and then it dissolved into an energy form and came to my left side, and then it turned off my eyesight. So my muscles were paralyzed. My eyesight was turned off for a few minutes, and it was talking to me mentally. And then he left, and when they left, everything goes back to normal. But this is really this is the same thing as Saul on the road to Damascus, where the alien came to them and he did the same thing. They shut off the person's eyesight, they paralyzed him, and then when they released him, he went back to normal. And Saul on the road to Damascus became Paul of the Bible, one of the principal persons that reported in the Bible. So my experience was similar to Paul of the Bible, because they called him Saul of Tartus or Tartan, which is, I guess, maybe a bit Turkey. And later on, they said, no, his name is Paul, because of a different cultural name. So now, and in the year 2000, I was blogging on my website, which is active for many years, for about 10 or 12 years, called, and on that website, I said that I think that some of these creatures reported in folklore could be real extraterrestrials. And I mentioned the fairies, the leprechauns, the gremlins, or they have different names. I mentioned them. They're 2 feet tall or 2.5 feet tall, and they're more human than humans. They have a human face, and the only difference is they have bigger ears than humans. And I mentioned this. I said, this is probably another group of extraterrestrials that live here with us, and they come out and they interact with humans sometimes mostly in places like Ireland and Scotland and England, out in the forest. People will say, oh, I see fairies, and people would laugh at them. Oh, there's no fairies. That's a fairy tale. That's just a fairy tale story. They're not real, but they are real. And the reason they're real is I have 2 of them that came to visit me directly after I posted an article about them on the internet. The 2 of them that came to see me, one was standing at the foot of my bed, one was at the head of my bed, and they showed me their hand. Their hand had 4 fingers and no opposable thumb, which is different than some of the aliens had 6 fingers and opposable thumb. Some of the aliens have 3 fingers and an opposable thumb, 2 fingers. There's different morphologies, different types of alien groups. There are reptilians, there are amphibians, there are mammalian types. The mammalian types may have orange hair, green hair, blue hair, black hair, different colors, and many different reptilians. The reptilians have scales and pupils with vertical slits, and that looks like, they look like snakes. And so the tails of dragons might be tails of various reptilian alien groups, because they kind of look like, like lizards or reptilians, classical reptilians. But that's another group. There are many different groups. There's 160 different groups of extraterrestrials. And many of them have colonies here. Not all of them have colonies. A lot of them come to visit, and they'll go away, and they'll never come back because they're busy investigating other planets and other life forms elsewhere. But a lot of them have colonies here, and they have colonies deep within the earth, and they're hidden away deliberately because they don't really want to interact with us, because they know our military will try to shoot them down. So the message is, for the ATIP, do not attack the aliens, because most of them are friendly. You just cautiously observe and monitor, but you do not try to shoot them down in order to back engineer the technology. That's the mistake that American military and other militaries around the world have made. That mistake. You do not attack them. They're ancient aliens. They're more sophisticated and they're superior to us. Whether we like it or not, they're superior to us, both on a technological level and a spiritual level. So if we get in a nuclear attack, if there's enough aliens out there, they can actually take the nuclear missiles and reverse them and have them go back to the source. So if, like, Putin tries to start a nuclear war with us, they'll end up destroying their own society. They'll end up killing themselves because they don't like us using nuclear weapons. That's why a small percentage of these alien groups are actually hostile, even to the American military. Most of them understand that we dropped bombs on Japan in order to stop World War II. Most of them understand that, but not all of them go along with it. Some of them are opposed to the American military. So if we start a war with somebody like China or Russia, or if they start a war with us, the aliens will do everything to stop the nuclear war, because they don't want us using nuclear war, and they don't want us to go out to the stars with that same kind of attitude, with a hostile, aggressive, controlling attitude. We'd have to become more spiritually advanced and behave ourselves in order to go out in the stars, like Elon Musk wants to go to Mars. If he goes to Mars, he may find out, guess what? There's people already up here. There's some aliens that live underground. There may be German and Russian colonies also on the moon and Mars. Now, that's my theory. I cannot prove that, but that proof may come out when Elon Musk finally gets up there with his rocket ships. We will probably have that proof coming up, because when they get there, they're going to find out. They may tell them that you're trespassing. You have to go back to where you came from. So to me, it's strange that the Artemis project that came in after Apollo, to me, that's strange. The Artemis project was, they didn't land on the moon. They said, well, we're just going to go around the moon and come back. Why didn't they go land on the moon if they had that? So to me, that whole thing is strange. There's something going on the moon that they don't want us to know. They said, why don't they just land on the moon or land on Mars and get it over with? It seems like they're covering up something, like something's not quite right about that Artemis project, which came in after the Apollo. Okay, that's it. Signing off. This is Dr. Scmit's Alien Universe. I'm a private ufologist, but I may try to become more public in the near future. Thank you very much.